DEVULALD or greeting. The stellar hegemony had conquered 43 civilizations across the galaxy without significant resistance. Their approach was methodical and terrifyingly efficient. Arrive, demonstrate overwhelming force, accept surrender, integrate the new species into their collective. Today, they approached a small blue world in the outer spiral arm of the galaxy, expecting nothing more than another routine subjugation. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood rigid on the bridge of his flagship. The inevitable truth. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the ship's bioluminescent lighting, and his 4 eyes scanned the tactical displays with practiced efficiency. Earth floated before them like a jewel in space, deceptively peaceful. Begin standard conquest protocol, Vexthor commanded, his mandibles clicking with authority. Broadcast the submission demand. The communications officer initiated the transmission that had broken the will of countless species. Inhabitants of Earth, you stand before the might of the stellar hegemony. Your technological inferiority is evident. Surrender now, and your species will be granted the honor of serving the greater collective. You have 1 planetary rotation to comply. What happened next would become legend throughout the galaxy, though no 2 accounts would ever quite agree on the details. For 12 Earth hours, there was silence. Then, instead of the expected pleas for mercy or attempts at negotiation, something unprecedented occurred. A transmission burst from Earth's surface, not from any government facility or military installation, but from what appeared to be a late-night comedy show in New York City. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced a human in a ill-fitting suit, standing before a backdrop of Earth's night skyline. "Apparently, we're being invaded. According to our new alien overlords, we have inferior technology. This coming from beings who haven't discovered the joy of pizza delivery or online streaming services. Let's give them a warm New York welcome." The studio audience erupted in laughter and applause. Commander Vexthor's secondary brain cluster struggled to process this response. His species had evolved beyond humor approximately 3 million years ago, considering it an inefficient use of neural capacity. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, confusion evident in her pheromone emissions, "we're receiving multiple transmissions from the planet. They appear to be entertainment broadcasts." Indeed, Earth's media had exploded with activity. News anchors delivered updates while barely suppressing grins. Social media platforms crashed under the weight of memes depicting confused aliens. Radio stations held call-in contests for the best alien invasion jokes. Before Vexthor could formulate a response, space around Earth began to shimmer with emerging vessels. But these weren't the sleek warships or desperate evacuation craft the hegemony typically encountered. Instead, a motley collection of ships appeared, each more bewildering than the last. A cruise liner emerged from behind the moon, its hull painted with neon advertisements for intergalactic party cruises, now accepting alien tourists. A cargo hauler followed, modified with what appeared to be disco lights and speaker arrays powerful enough to vibrate space itself. Mining vessels painted in camouflage patterns that would only work in a child's imagination took up positions alongside racing yachts with flame decals. The tactical display became a chaotic rainbow of ship signatures, none matching any known military configuration. Vexthor's threat assessment algorithms crashed repeatedly, unable to categorize vessels that included a ship shaped like a giant hot dog and another that appeared to be constructed entirely from shipping containers welded together. "This is Admiral Patricia Wong of the United Earth Provisional Space Force," came a transmission from the lead vessel, a former research station that someone had attached engines to, apparently using extensive amounts of duct tape. "Welcome to Earth space. I see you've met our welcoming committee. Before we proceed with this whole conquest thing, we need to discuss parking arrangements. You're currently blocking our view of Saturn, and tonight's Astronomy Club meeting will be very disappointed." Vexthor's neural pathways fired in patterns they hadn't used since his species evolved past confusion. "Admiral Wong," he began, struggling to maintain his commanding presence, "you face the combined might of..." "Oh, Hold that thought, Wong interrupted cheerfully. Dave, can you turn down the music? The nice alien commander is trying to threaten us properly. The space around Earth suddenly erupted with sound as hundreds of human vessels began broadcasting simultaneously. Classical symphonies mixed with electronic dance music, jazz competed with opera, and somewhere in the cacophony, someone was playing an accordion. Sorry about that. Wong continued as the volume decreased slightly. Where were you? Something about combined might. The hegemony fleet, for the first time in its history, found itself in a position it had no protocols for. Their perfect formations were being disrupted by human ships weaving between them while broadcasting cooking shows. Their communication channels were being flooded with requests for cultural exchange programs and inquiries about dietary restrictions for the upcoming Welcome to Earth potluck dinner. Admiral, Vex Thor attempted again, his voice losing some of its earlier authority. Your species faces annihilation if you do not. A new ship emerged from Earth's atmosphere, this one painted to look like a giant pizza slice. It positioned itself directly in front of the inevitable truth and began rotating slowly, disco lights flashing. Tony's Pizza Delivery, came an enthusiastic voice. You folks ordered the extra large with everything. That'll be $29.99, not including tip. We don't accept Galactic credits, but we're flexible on payment methods. Vex Thor's command staff exchanged uncertain glances. Their species communicated partially through pheromones, and the bridge was now filled with the chemical equivalent of question marks. Lieutenant Zora Mitchell floated into view on Wong's screen, holding what appeared to be a selection of board games. Admiral, the aliens look stressed. Should we offer them some recreational activities? I brought Monopoly, but that might be too aggressive for first contact. The hegemony had conquered worlds through fear. They had subjugated civilizations with displays of overwhelming force. They had built an empire on the foundation of absolute authority. But they had never encountered a species that responded to invasion with dinner invitations and party games. As more human ships continued to emerge, including one that appeared to be a floating greenhouse and another covered entirely in solar panels arranged to spell out "We el su a mi" in various Earth languages, Vex Thor realized something profound. The humans weren't surrendering. They weren't fighting. They were doing something far more disturbing to the hegemony's ordered universe. They were being neighborly. Sir, his communications officer reported, her voice tinged with something approaching panic. We're receiving a transmission from something called the International Committee for Alien Relations. They're asking about our dietary requirements and whether we have any cultural sensitivities they should be aware of for the welcoming ceremony. Another officer interjected. The humans are also inquiring if we need any medical assistance, offering to share their entertainment libraries. And, he paused, disbelief coloring his pheromones, asking if we'd like to participate in something called karaoke night. Vex Thor stared at the swirling chaos of human vessels surrounding his pristine fleet. His empire had been built on fear and submission. The humans were offering friendship and entertainment. It was, he realized with growing unease, far more unsettling than any weapon they could have deployed. As the pizza delivery ship continued its slow rotation, now accompanied by what appeared to be a conga line of small personal craft, Vex Thor made a decision that would forever change the course of galactic history. Stand down from attack positions, he ordered quietly. His bridge crew turned to stare at him in shock. Sir, the weapons officer questioned. I said stand down, Vex Thor repeated, watching as a human ship shaped like a rubber duck floated past his view screen. We need to reassess this situation. Admiral Wong's voice came through the communication system, warm and inviting. Excellent decision, Commander. Now, about that potluck dinner. Do your people have any food allergies we should know about? My husband makes a mean lasagna, but we can accommodate any dietary restrictions. As the hegemony fleet powered down their weapons systems, the human vessels began to form what could only be described as a conga line in space, led by the giant hot dog ship. Music continued to pour into the void, and somewhere in the distance, fireworks began to explode in a dazzling display that spelled out "Welcome to Earth" against the starfield. For the first time in eons, the stellar hegemony found itself completely unprepared. They had protocols for resistance, surrender, and even desperate last stands. They had no protocols for being invited to dinner. And so began the most unusual first contact in galactic history, not with plasma fire or surrender documents, but with an exchange of recipes and a debate about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. The galaxy would never be the same. Laughter as a weapon. 3 days after the initial contact, the bridge of the inevitable truth resembled nothing like the sterile command center it had been when the hegemony arrived in Earth's orbit. Human cultural attaches had installed what they called a coffee station, complete with an impressive array of mugs bearing phrases like "Galaxy's best commander" and "I conquered worlds, and all I got was this lousy mug." Commander Vexthor stood before his tactical display, which now showed not battle formations but a complex schedule of cultural exchange events. His 4 eyes tracked the movements of human and hegemony vessels, now intermingling in what the humans called space traffic around Earth. "Sir," reported Sub-Commander Crixtel, who had somehow been convinced to wear a Hawaiian shirt over his exoskeleton, "the humans are requesting permission to paint friendly faces on our hull. They claim it will make us appear more approachable." Vexthor's mandibles clicked in what his crew had learned to recognize as the hegemony equivalent of a sigh. "What kind of faces?" "They mentioned something called emojis, sir. Apparently, the smiley face is universal in their culture." Before Vexthor could respond, the main view screen activated, showing Admiral Wong in what appeared to be a command center that had been converted into a cozy living room. She was seated in a recliner, holding a cup of tea. "Good morning, Commander. How are you settling in? I hear your crew enjoyed movie night yesterday. I told you Independence Day was probably not the best choice for first contact movie selection, but Lieutenant Rodriguez insisted it was a classic." Vexthor straightened, trying to maintain some semblance of military bearing. "Admiral Wong, we need to discuss the situation. My empire—" "Patricia, please," Wong interrupted with a warm smile. "And yes, let's discuss. But first, have you tried the coffee yet? I had our best barista send up instructions for your food synthesizers." The commander's resolve wavered. He had, in fact, tried the coffee. His species had evolved beyond the need for stimulants millennia ago, but something about the human beverage had awakened neural pathways he didn't know existed. "The coffee is acceptable," he admitted reluctantly. "But Admiral, Patricia, you must understand. The stellar hegemony has conquered vast regions of space. We cannot simply abandon your conquering ways and join us for game night." Wong finished cheerfully. "Why not? Have you seen how much fun your weapons officer is having with our chess club? She's beaten everyone except Mrs. Chen from Beijing. But that's expected. Mrs. Chen was a grandmaster before she retired to run her flower shop." Vexthor's secondary brain cluster fired in frustration. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to proceed. Where was the fear? The awe at the hegemony's might? Instead, his crew was being systematically compromised by what the humans called cultural exchange. His meditation specialist had joined a yoga class. His chief engineer was collaborating with human mechanics on something called a hot rod modification for shuttlecraft. Even his most hardened warriors had been spotted participating in what the humans termed laser tag, using training weapons set to harmless light emissions. "Patricia," Vexthor tried again, "you don't seem to understand the gravity of the situation. The hegemony has the power to—" He was interrupted by an alarm. Not a battle alarm, but something the humans had installed to announce special events. The main screen split to show a news broadcast from Earth. "This is Keith Nakamura with breaking news. The annual International Space Dance Competition has officially invited our new alien visitors to participate. Early reports suggest the hegemony's exoskeleton structure might give them an advantage in breakdancing categories, but humans remain confident in the salsa division. The screen showed footage of a hegemony warrior attempting to learn the merengue from an elderly human instructor. Despite having 4 arms and a rigid carapace, the alien was managing surprisingly well. Wong grinned. "Your people are naturals." That's Sergeant Thompson teaching the steps. He's 82 years old and used to be a Broadway choreographer. Says teaching aliens to dance is his greatest challenge yet, but he's optimistic. Vexthor felt something he hadn't experienced in his long military career: complete bewilderment. His empire's entire strategy was based on intimidation and superior firepower. The humans had countered with hospitality and dance lessons. But we're invaders," he said weakly. "You should be terrified." Wong's expression softened. "Commander, let me share something with you. Humans have a long history of conflict among ourselves. We've learned that fear leads to more fear, violence leads to more violence. But laughter, friendship, those are contagious in the best possible way." She stood up, and the camera pulled back to reveal she was wearing fuzzy slippers shaped like alien heads, a design clearly inspired by hegemony physiology, but somehow made adorable. "Your fleet arrived expecting us to cower. Instead, we chose to welcome you. And look what's happened. Your strict military hierarchy is learning to play volleyball. Your scientists are exchanging theories with our physicists over barbecue, and your communications officer has started a blog about Earth cuisine." Vexthor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought in his species. "The blog has been surprisingly popular among the fleet," he admitted. "That's because Xyltex has a gift for food writing," Wong replied. Her review of New York pizza versus Chicago deep dish sparked a debate that crashed 3 of our social media servers. "That's the kind of conflict we prefer, passionate but harmless." The commander moved to his observation window, looking out at the space around Earth. Human and hegemony vessels moved in what could only be described as a cosmic dance, no longer in military formations, but in the random patterns of friendship. A hegemony dreadnought was being given a tour by a human school bus that had somehow been converted for space travel. The contrast was absurd, yet somehow perfect. "We've conquered worlds through fear for millennia," Vexthor said quietly. "It's all we know." "Was it fulfilling?" Wong asked gently. "Did it bring your people joy?" The question hit harder than any weapon could have. Vexthor thought of the endless conquests, the subjugated worlds, the rigid hierarchy that defined hegemony existence. When was the last time he had heard genuine laughter among his people? When had they last created something for the sheer joy of creation? "No," he admitted, the word barely audible. It brought only more conquest, more fear, more isolation. Wong appeared beside him, not on screen, but physically present on his bridge. She had teleported aboard using technology the humans had cheerfully shared, claiming it made visiting easier. "Then maybe it's time for something different," she suggested. "Your technology is incredible. Your people's abilities are amazing. Imagine what we could achieve together, not through conquest, but through cooperation." As if to emphasize her point, a human child's voice came over the communication system. "Mr. Alien Commander, sir. This is Sally from Minnesota. I'm 8 years old. Would you like to judge our school science fair? We're doing projects about space, and having real aliens as judges would be super cool." Despite himself, despite millions of years of evolution beyond such emotions, Vexthor felt something shift in his consciousness. The child's innocent enthusiasm was more powerful than any weapon in his arsenal. "I would be honored to judge your science fair, Sally from Minnesota," he replied, his voice catching slightly. Cheers erupted from the communication system, not just from Sally, but from what sounded like her entire classroom. Wong smiled. "That's the thing about humans, Commander. We're at our best when we're bringing people together, not driving them apart. Your empire is built on the idea that strength comes from dominance. We believe strength comes from diversity. from friendship, from the bonds we forge with others. The bridge doors opened, and several of Vex Thor's senior officers entered. But they were different. Their rigid postures had relaxed. Their expressions, as much as their physiology allowed, seemed lighter. His weapons officer was wearing a knitted hat with Earth symbols, courtesy of a human grandmother who had decided all the aliens needed warm heads in space. "Sir," the weapons officer reported, "the human Admiral Martinez has invited us to participate in something called a chili cook-off. He claims hegemony dietary requirements would make our entry particularly interesting. Also, the human children have been sending us drawings of our ships. They've added what they call racing stripes and cool flames. Permission to implement some of these modifications." Vex Thor looked at his officer, one of the most feared warriors in the galaxy, now excited about a cooking competition and children's artwork. Then he looked at Wong, who was sipping her tea with an expression of amused patience. "You've won," he said simply. Wong raised an eyebrow. "Won what?" "This. Conflict. Invasion. Whatever it was supposed to be. You've defeated the stellar hegemony without firing a single shot." "Commander," Wong said gently, setting down her tea, "nobody won or lost. We just chose a different game. Instead of conquest, we chose connection. Instead of submission, we offered friendship. Your empire doesn't have to fall. It just needs to evolve." Vex Thor's communication panel chimed. It was a message from the hegemony's homeworld, from the Supreme Council itself. He had been sending regular updates, each more confused than the last. Now they demanded an explanation for why the conquest of Earth had stalled. He looked at the message, then at his bridge crew, then at Wong. Finally, he made a decision that would reshape galactic history. "Connect me to the Supreme Council," he ordered. When the connection was established, showing the stern faces of the hegemony's ultimate leadership, Vex Thor spoke words that had never been uttered in the Empire's long history. "Supreme Councilors, I recommend we accept Earth's offer of friendship and cultural exchange. Their approach to intergalactic relations is innovative and potentially more effective than our traditional methods." The Council erupted in shocked exclamations, but Vex Thor continued. "They've shown us something we had forgotten, that there's strength in joy, power in laughter, and that the greatest conquest is not of worlds, but of hearts and minds." As the council debated, Wong quietly organized what she called a welcome to the neighborhood party for the entire hegemony fleet. By the time Vex Thor finished his communication with the increasingly intrigued Supreme Council, Earth's orbit had become the site of the largest intercultural celebration in galactic history. Human and hegemony vessels formed constellations of light against the darkness of space. Music from 100 worlds mixed with Earth's diverse cultural offerings. Somewhere in the organized chaos, a group of hegemony warriors were learning to square dance, while human engineers marveled at alien technology. "So," Wong said as she and Vex Thor watched the festivities from the observation deck, "what's next for the stellar hegemony?" Vex Thor's mandibles arranged themselves in what he had learned was his species' equivalent of a smile. "I believe we need to rebrand. Stellar hegemony sounds rather aggressive. Perhaps something more like Galactic Community Partners." Wong laughed, a warm, genuine sound that seemed to resonate through space itself. "I like it, though you might want to workshop that name a bit. Marketing isn't your strong suit." As the two leaders, former adversaries, now friends, watched their people celebrate together, the galaxy shifted on its axis. News of Earth's unique approach to first contact spread faster than light, reaching worlds that had cowered in fear of the hegemony for eons. Within months, other civilizations began reaching out, not with weapons or surrender, but with their own offerings of culture and friendship. The hegemony's conquest fleet found itself transformed into the galaxy's first intercultural exchange program. And at the center of it all was Earth, a small blue world that had weaponized joy, deployed friendship like a strategic asset, and proven that sometimes the best way to conquer an empire is to invite it to dinner. Years later, When historians tried to pinpoint the moment everything changed, they would return to that first transmission from a late-night comedy show. Where an empire expected fear, Earth had offered laughter. Where the galaxy anticipated another conquest, humanity had thrown a party. It turns out that in a universe full of advanced weapons and superior technology, the most powerful force was something simpler: the universal desire to belong, to connect, to laugh together in the face of the infinite. The stellar hegemony had come to conquer Earth. Instead, Earth had welcomed them home.